We are City of Five Nations podcast, and we're in a series, 30 Days of Community Building, and we've twisted a little bit as we've gone around the curve throughout the month. And now we are meeting people for the very first time. It's an awkward feeling a lot of times when you step into the world of someone else just to try to get to know them a little bit better. It's awkward for them, and you want to be polite about that, but it's also a feeling of vulnerability and awkward for ourselves. And this gentleman that we have today, I actually heard about at a luncheon that Gateway to Prevention was gracious enough to be serving. And the person who was describing him had a joy in their voice and a sparkle in their eye that just made me curious about who this individual might be. And lo and behold, I get a phone call 2 weeks later, and Stanton Pace, as we bring Stanton in, it was on the other end of the phone call. And I said, Stanton, would you mind being on our podcast? Because I'd like to get to know you. And I'd like to do it in a great way in which everybody watches us get to know each other. Stanton Pace.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you for being so open to meeting in such a vulnerable way. And what a gift, a joy it is for us to be able to be willing to experience that vulnerability, see what comes of it. What I'd like to share that you didn't share about our call was that I was calling you for a totally unrelated reason. And that is my experience of how spirit works in our life. Without getting into, how much I understand or don't understand or know this or know that about spirit, I just know that that's one of the ways that spirit continually works in my life. And I'm so grateful for that. So thank you. You're awesome.
Man, when we experienced that, and how cool it is, really, that we have almost a faulty connection as we are looking at you at the Bowser's Peace Sanctuary, which is out on the fringes of, of civilization. And we, for the first time, really being face to face, have to work through even more difficulty of connection. And it's actually something that I am reveling in how funny it is that things work out this way.
Yes, this is absolutely no accident. This is no accident. Um, and it's beautiful. And what an example you are. Without knowing you, I don't know you. And getting to know you, and I know we were brought together. So, in the irony of the difficulty of connection, we were already connected. Some inspiration flowed through me to help others based on my really hardcore suffering in past life, not past lives, but my current past life. And so here we are connecting, and on this is just perfect. On the surface human world that we all live in and operate in, and is a gift, we have these difficulties, this connection, and I can't help but to know there's a knowing that this is just an example to all of those out there who may be having some struggles with this surface, and the spirit is just blowing right through that, and we're connected before we even made the call. So yeah, just powerful. And I would like to just share that we can choose these perceptions. We can choose to let that be open, to experience that, as opposed to knowing that we are doomed to bad luck, or knowing, I'm saying that in jest as it's not really knowing, but knowing that things can't go our way, knowing that our life is difficult and trapped. Or we can be open to, like, let's see what the gift is in this.
I love that. And when I hear the term peace, I think immediately of nothing broken, nothing missing. And when I hear sanctuary, I think, wow, that's a place you want to be. Peace filled is what I think of. It's like the place of peace when I hear sanctuary. And then when I put Bowser's in front of it, I kind of have to chuckle because I don't quite know what that means, but it's got to mean something that wants to make me smile and makes me want to laugh. Tell us about Bowser's Peace Sanctuary.
You have a beautiful gift of words, and I just say that because that is a challenge for me. But anyway, let me get back. You're right. Peace and sanctuary are really, and I'm into a lot of different spiritual practices that cultivate mindfulness and all different things, just the joy and the peace and then we throw in this whimsical word Bowser's. And to me, that's just perfect because it contrasts with the fanciness or whatever that preconceived notions of peace and sanctuary are in Bowser's. And to me, that's spirit waking us up, waking you up when you shared that you have to smile when you hear that. Well, I will tell you that I did not make up the name Bowser. I didn't make up the name Peace Sanctuary. Those were shared with me through connections of other humans. One, my daughter, and another, an Osage um, gentleman that is a writer and did a play based on something that I similarly flow with, which is all flowing through spirit. So to get back to Bowser, Bowser is um, one of my angels. But Bowser, in human surface worldly terms, is an American black bear. And this immediate description, I mean, he does live here. He lives here with us. Um, he is a part of our family, and I welcome those of you to share the vulnerability, and maybe just crack open a little bit of the mind that I know our preconceived notions and our thoughts, our training of the way it is. We may have something come in that says, "Oh, they got a bear," because that's strange. That's weird. And I would just say that the way that he came to be a healer at the Peace Sanctuary was a complete accident. Not an accident by spirit's terms. It was not my intention when I got Bowser. But Bowser is an incredible, loving, healing, sharing spirit.
I believe that. When I looked at some pictures on your Facebook page and I saw Bowser and I saw his eyes, it was interesting because we have a dog named Aurora. And when it seems like, I have six adults, and the children, when they were children, they would always bring us the dogs. And this was no different.
Hmm.
As the dog showed up with one of our adults and said, "Hey, mom, dad, this dog needs a home." Well, my wife just fell in love with this wild dog immediately. I mean, this dog was bouncing off the walls. It was huge, and I have never had an inside dog, but if we put this dog outside, it was going to be, miles away every day. And so we made an inside dog, and I really grew to love this dog named Aurora. And I always wondered where she came
Hmm.
from and how they could come up with such a name as Aurora, because that makes me think of a Colorado sky and an exploding star and, just really wild things. I loved it, but also it was so hard to say. And one day I was sitting in the living room. I think we were by the fire, and Aurora was down the hall, and she has her way of letting us know she needs to go outside. And she was down the hall going, "Arr, arr, arr," and it hit me. I have a talking dog. This is the first dog that I ever have known to name itself. She was very clearly saying, "Aurora, Aurora." And it was so funny how that came to being. And tying this back to Bowser, when I looked into the eyes of Bowser through your pictures, I very much saw a dog that has become such a connection in my wife and in my eyes and our son. It's like the favorite being. And so to say that Bowser has a place at the sanctuary and came into that place of helping people come to an understanding of themselves and really of a consideration and love that you see in the eyes of an animal like that, man, that just strikes a chord on the inside of me as well.
Yeah, his he is such a teacher, as all of nature is. The most difficult part of that is us being open to be taught, us being able to listen. And it's taken me 52 and 9/10 years to really get and continue daily to improve upon being able to listen. And it consists of learning, practicing, and cultivating the ability to be still, the ability to not listen to my untrained mind. And I'm a little heavy on the mindfulness talk because I'm in the middle, so grateful to be in the middle of my mindfulness in recovery facilitator training, certified training. That's fancy stuff for me. I've never been much of an academic. Um, anyway,
Well,
we learn to be open and we can hear.
what I love about that and is as we look, and if we just looked at the picture in which you were sitting in, Stanton, and how grand the things are all around you, it's like a portrait that has been painted for us that comes by us um, so routinely that we can overlook the grandeur of what we live in, the now. And when you talk about, and the words of mindfulness and those kind of things, when we talk about just listening intently to the voice that's on the inside of us as individuals, I think that that voice so often is actually screaming, just look around you. Just look around you. It's going to be okay. Look around you. These are the things to concentrate on because it's an example of living, it's an example of life, and it's an example of the power that is so far beyond us that we can't even comprehend its awesomeness.
That is very wise and beautiful, Daniel. Thank you for that. Yeah, and what we think of or are trained as or raised up as bad or negative or undesirable, what if that in fact was the gift? So what if our Creator blows out our tire at the precise moment that we need our tire to be blown out to be able to stop our car at the side of the road that happens to have a creek, that happens to have a flower, that happens to have a tadpole that happens to connect with us in a perfect way? Would we be able to hear it? Or would we be so sure that our life is ruined? I'm telling you, with my untrained mind perception of when I have a blowout tire, not only is it a blowout tire that you simply call AAA or you get out and change the spare. No, in the untrained mind, my life is ruined. My tire blew out. Nothing will ever be okay again. This is what we try to help with. But to get back to the point, would we be able to accept that our tire blow out because that's what they do, because we had a gift of driving it for a whole bunch of miles before it blew out. But then would we be open to be able to see that gift over there? And literally, are we shutting off our Creator's gifts when we direct and dictate how life is supposed to be? Um,
So if we take
and I came to,
if we take that very example,
Go ahead.
the blowout. And we shape it, like you said, in the sense of, okay, I'm going to look around just in case this is an opportunity that God is giving my attention, or whatever we call, our higher power in recovery, that we find that creek, we find that stream, and we find that flower, and we find that tadpole. I felt just in the story the joy that I search for every day ignite on the inside of me, just with all of the little discoveries, and then walking back to fix my tire, or walking back then to pull out my cell phone to get some help. I mean, just that spark of joy would have been enough to give me energy throughout the entire rest of the day, no matter how much of a hurry I had been in, no matter what situation was that I was going to. My whole perspective throughout that entire day would have been changed.
Absolutely. And so what we're talking about then is learning how to choose what we look at because it is subjective. We are what we think, and what we pay attention to grows. And so this has been snowballing for me for about 10 years. Um, I started, I started, I started failing at successfully drinking alcohol and using drugs well, before that, but really at 18. At 18 years old, I was a burnout drunk trying to get sober. And it was another 18 years of being sober for a little while, going back out. And at the age of 36 until now, I'm grateful to be sober. And, and sober is just the very tip of the iceberg, just the very clearing of the fog so that I could start to see and to wake up. So, what we do at the Peace Sanctuary is we try to help people experience that. If we have this shell over our minds, over our beings of obsessive thinking, and the shell has locked us in, and it's our beliefs and our knowings of the way it is, and just taking it for granted that the sun comes up and the perfect amount of water flows through the clouds and the earth and our body and our lakes, and we just take that for granted. And okay, so we get to flow, we get to experience a new way to perceive things. And it's just so ironic of how hard that is to go. So to get there from our difficulties then would mean that our difficulties are the gift. And so going at it from that perspective makes me free from having to control my life. I'm free from having to make sure that it doesn't rain today because that's a hard deal to control.
Yeah, it really is. And the difficulties being the gift, how often do we hear people who relay their testimony or relay their story of how they were able to arrive at where they're at, and they're interesting enough that many people want to hear their stories. They always talk about the difficulties that it took in order to get to the place that they wanted to be, or that others seem to think that they want to be. And for us to be able to welcome difficulties as gifts in order to reach a greater reward, and how much more those rewards are heartfelt, and we are so much more thankful for when we've gone through difficulties in order to achieve or receive the reward. So calling out difficulties as the gift, that in itself is brilliant. So Stanton, I want to
I am losing connection.
I want to thank
Uh,
you. Our connection is at a point, I think, in which it might be breaking us off, but this isn't going to be the last time you and I talk. That's for sure. What a gift it has been for me to be able to spend some time with you. And thank you for taking time this morning on a Monday morning and just getting to know me and allowing me to get to know you a little bit better.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for being open. Thank you for sharing all that you do and the openness that you do with anybody who's inspired to listen. And if anybody's not feeling okay, if you're feeling like a rageaholic, if you're feeling like you want to kill yourself, if you're feeling like you want to quit drinking, but you don't want to quit drinking, but you got to do something, we are here at Bowser's Peace Sanctuary. I love you, and I will help you any way we can.
Thank you, Stanton Pace, and we will see you again, my friend. That's Stanton Pace, and Stanton runs Bowser's Peace Sanctuary. So, as he gave the invitation of anybody who's in pain, that is a sincere invitation. Um, Search them. You'll be able to find Bowser's Peace Sanctuary. It was very easy for me to find once I got the name down. And what a gift it is to meet somebody new each and every day on this series, building 30 days of community building. On our podcast, we are City of Five Nations. As always, we are thankful for our audience. We're thankful for those who sponsor and help us to bring this type of information to you. And we ask that you go ahead and share this if you like it. Go ahead and like if you like it. Every little bit helps for more people to be able to be touched in community building. And as we weave this fabric throughout community, know that we make each and every one of us a little bit stronger. Tomorrow, I look forward to meeting somebody else new in my life. It's funny because I know Trevor Maston's family. I know all around Trevor. But he started a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago, putting out a YouTube video series that I really liked. Somebody shared it with me, and I saw him do some renditions, and he's so talented. I remember back in high school when he was a high jumper out at the state tournaments for Shawnee High School track. So another native of the City of Five Nations graduating from our high school. And I get the privilege of meeting and talking with Trevor Maston tomorrow. We hope that you tune in at noon or watch it on demand anytime you would like on the many outlets that we are City of Five Nation podcast reaches. I'm Daniel Shaughnessy. And remember, here in the City of Five Nations, together we are building community one season at a time. And that fits anywhere your community is around the globe. Good afternoon, everybody.